What would you do if you offered to split the bill on a first date and he said yes? Would you think, wow, respectful and egalitarian? Or, well, I guess he's not husband material. Today, we're going to find out. I'm Leah Carey, relationship and intimacy coach, and we're unpacking yet another piece of dating advice aimed at women about how to attract a husband and why it's completely messing with your head. In a clip from the Steve Harvey talk show, a woman says she's been told she should offer to split the bill on a date. Supposedly, the man will refuse but appreciate the gesture. Her problem? Lately, when she tries it, the guys accept. And now she's wondering, are they doing it wrong or is she? So she asks Steve, do men appreciate the offer? And should she keep doing it? Steve responds,
do men really appreciate it? And should women offer to pay for half on the first date?
No, they don't appreciate it, and you shouldn't offer it.
Steve, my dude, we need to talk. Not because I hate your advice. You're encouraging men to show up, take initiative, provide. And maybe that makes sense if your goal is to have a relationship in 1952. But for those of us living in the 21st century, we've got different goals and a way more nuanced understanding of what a happy, successful relationship looks like. And advice like this, it is not helping. One of the foundational ideas in Steve's advice is women are the prize and men need to earn them. So perhaps that sounds appealing, especially if you were raised to believe that your value came from how desirable you are, not how whole you are. Finally, someone is saying you deserve to be pursued, cherished, treated well. But there's a problem because if you're a prize, that means you're being competed for, not seen, not understood, not chosen for who you are, but for how well you can play the role of the unattainable ideal. You become a status symbol, a conquest, a check mark on somebody else's success story. And when that someone finally wins you, the foundation is already cracked because they weren't getting to know the real you. They were chasing a fantasy version of you that they built in their head. And odds are you were chasing a fantasy too. Someone who could make you feel safe, chosen, and worthy just by wanting you enough. This is what I call performative dating. You perform the version of you that you think is desirable. They perform the version of them that they think is worthy. But neither of you are actually there in the room. You're both auditioning for roles, not building a relationship. But that can't last. So at some point, you stop performing. You let your guard down. You say how you actually feel, and the whole thing starts to unravel because the relationship was never based on you. It was based on who you were pretending to be. Because here's the secret. You do deserve to be pursued, cherished, treated well. But you deserve that for the person you are, not an idealized version that you're pretending to be. And by the way, this is true for every person of every gender and every orientation and every relationship structure. We all deserve to be cherished for who we are. And no matter how much your brain might want to argue, I can promise there is someone who wants to do exactly that. Okay, so now we know what you lose in the present by showing up as an idealized version of yourself. What about what will happen in the future?
I really get sick of dating sites trying to play both sides of the fence. You want to match a woman up with somebody, but then you want her to be this totally independent, standalone person.
What the hell? Okay, let's say you followed the advice, you've played the game, congrats, you've been picked, you're the prize. Now you've been placed on the pedestal that your parents or your church told you to aim for. And at first it feels amazing. You're adored, idealized, praised. You feel wanted, special, even safe. But here's the problem. Pedestals are not built for people. They're made for statues, beautiful, untouchable, and very, very silent statues. Objects that are admired, not engaged with, seen, not heard, flawless, not human. And when you're up there, there is nowhere to go but down. And falling off a pedestal is not a gentle slide. It's more of a crash landing situation. So eventually the person you're dating realizes you're not perfect because nobody is. And when that happens, they don't feel just disappointed. They feel betrayed, like you sold them a fantasy version of yourself that expired the moment you put on sweatpants and had an opinion. But you didn't trick anyone. They just didn't have the opportunity to know the real you. Because advice, like Steve says, don't show too much, make him prove himself, stay mysterious. Connection doesn't grow through testing each other. It grows through truth, through authenticity, through mutual vulnerability. And yes, that means that they get as vulnerable as you do. Frankly, I'm tired of teaching partners how to feel, how to name their feelings, how to express their feelings in a way that isn't harmful. From here on out, I want partners who show up with that software already factory installed. Great relationships grow from being weird and warm and honest with each other from the beginning, not being perfectly poised and ready to perform. So if you've ever found yourself in that cycle, trying to be cool, desirable, unbothered, while secretly wondering, do they even see me? You are not alone. And that's exactly why I created Stop Wasting Time on the Wrong People. It is not a rehash of the same old dating advice. It's a tool to help you tune out all the performative nonsense and actually listen to yourself, so you can identify the people who are worth spending more time getting to know and the ones who you can release back into the wild. It'll help you recognize the red flags, time wasters, and unhelpful dating advice that keeps you stuck in bad patterns. It's a surprisingly simple checklist to help you focus on the people who bring out the best in you, rather than wasting time on people who leave you feeling anxious or inadequate. Because you deserve a relationship where you feel wanted for who you are, not for how well you perform some antiquated version of relationshiping. The link is in the description. And if you're ready to stop dating on autopilot and start choosing people who actually fit you, it's going to be a game changer. Okay, let's get back to Steve.
A man, a heterosexual man, is nothing without a woman. Zero. Nothing. Ask him.
Yikes. So many yikes. Steve is suggesting that a man is reliant on a woman to be functional, which is more of the same bullshit about how men are weak and pitiful, but also somehow the head of the household. As I talked about in this video a few weeks ago, this reinforces learned incompetence, where men are expected to be bad at emotional labor and domestic tasks, which leaves women taking on the entire emotional load of figuring out where all the gaps are and filling them in. It's relationally irresponsible and emotionally violent, because now the woman isn't just a prize. She's also the life support system for the entire relationship. Her presence is supposed to magically turn him into a whole person, but that's not her job. Earlier in my relationship with my partner, he was dealing with some really heavy old shit. He would spiral into a depressive space where he'd spend hours unloading all his thoughts and fears about himself. And then after I had listened and validated and encouraged him, he would turn around and say, "I'm leaving. This relationship is no good for you. You're better off without me. It's over." He was forcing me to do the emotional labor, then kicking me in the gut for having seen him at his worst and accepting him when he couldn't accept himself. I suggested all manner of other support systems, therapy, groups that dealt with the issues he was going through, etc. But he had been trained from an early age that men don't go to therapy. And when he tried to go to a self-help group as a younger adult, he was told that they were women only. So he learned that the only safe place to do his emotional processing was with a female partner. Meanwhile, I was getting crushed under the weight of it. I loved him. And as someone who deals with persistent anxiety and chronic depression myself, I understood that him pushing me away was a defense mechanism, not a true desire to make me go away. But finally, after several months of suffering in silence, I'd taken as much as I could. I finally looked him in the eye and said, I can either be your girlfriend or your therapist, but I can't be both. And frankly, I'm not licensed to be a therapist. By drawing that boundary, he finally saw what he'd been doing to me. He started talking to some of his friends about what a mess he was and how it was affecting me. One of them recommended a therapist, and he finally went. It took a little while, and to be honest, my utter frustration at the fact that it took someone else telling him to go to therapy, but he got there. And it made a world of difference. It saved our relationship. And all it took was me growing a backbone and realizing my mental health was not created to be in service to his mental health. We are meant to support each other and to step back and let the professionals take over when necessary and appropriate. If you've ever been with someone who needed you to be their self-worth, their therapist, their mom, their motivation, and their emotional barometer, you know how heavy that gets. We have got to stop teaching people that women complete men or that men are nothing without a partner. That is not partnership. That's codependence topped with a pep squad who shows up at every rally to do a cheer for them.
If a man asks you out and he's not willing to buy you a plate of food, how can you possibly think that this guy can take care of a family?
A man's willingness to accept payment for half the bill has absolutely nothing to do with how good he will be as a husband, an emotional support, a father, a caregiver, should the day ever come. Nothing. So why does advice like Steve's still resonate for so many people? Because it offers simple answers in a deeply confusing world. Dating can feel like a minefield of ghosting, games, mixed signals, emotional whiplash, and it's comforting to have a script. Do this, not that. Pull back when he leans in. Let him chase you. It feels like control, like safety, like clarity in a storm. And for some people, it works. If the goal is to have a relationship that looks great on Instagram, this playbook might get you there. But if you're longing for real connection, if you want emotional safety, honest communication, and the kind of intimacy that makes you feel seen and held rather than managed and evaluated, you're going to need a different model. One that does not reduce you to a trophy or ask you to manipulate your way to love. And one that trusts your future partner to be looking for more than a helpmeet. One that starts with self-awareness by both people, knowing what you actually want, what feels good in your body, and what your boundaries are. One that centers mutual respect, not performative power plays. One that says, I'm not a prize to be won. I'm a person to be met with curiosity, care, and full humanity. You're not the reward at the end of someone else's game, because love is not a game or a competition. It's a process. And you are a whole damn person, and you deserve to be loved that way. Steve Harvey's advice comes from a worldview that a lot of people share. And I'm not here to tell you whether to offer to pay half the bill or not. You do what feels comfortable for you. What I want is to warn you against doing something that you've been taught to do without interrogating whether it's actually right for you. Because doing that can leave you feeling even more confused, more unseen, and more disconnected. You are not failing inside the system. The system is failing you. You deserve to be in relationships that feel like home, not a performance, not a proving ground. And if that's the kind of connection you want, I want to help you get there. So if this video helped you, hit the like button so YouTube knows that it's worth sharing with others. And if you've ever gotten stuck trying to follow old school advice that didn't quite fit, you are definitely not alone. Please drop a comment and tell me your story. I would love to hear it. And if you're ready to stop wasting time on the wrong people, that link is right below. It's going to be a game changer if you're ready to stop dating on autopilot and start choosing people who actually fit you. And if you want to learn more about how we got into this cesspool of believing that women are here to support men's emotional needs, check out this video. Because remember, you are worthy of love, and I'm going to help you get there, one conversation at a time.